All right, welcome to Made in Spain. The music that you're listening to, I would say it's very typical of the part of Spain that we recently visited, which is Granada.
My name is Laura Senia Garcia, and I am your co-host along with
Nalini Sharma, and we're super excited for this episode. And I think it's because we got to experience it firsthand. We went a few days ago, and we picked a fantastic week to actually visit the city of Granada.
So we're going to be talking a little bit more about Granada and specifically the timing of when we went.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, let's just mention where we're shooting our episode today. So we are in Javia in a beautiful restaurant called Bohemians, and they've been so kind to let us shoot here on location, and we have the beach behind us. So if you're not watching this on YouTube or you haven't seen it on socials, you should definitely check it out. It's absolutely gorgeous. We have the Mongo mountain and the beach right behind us. If you hear a little noise or if it's a little windy,
it's windy.
then you know where it's coming from. We are shooting in a different location today. We wanted to be inspired by our surroundings, and we have a nice glass of cava here.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
Nalini, cheers.
Okay.
And
Cheers.
welcome to
There we go.
episode 6 of season 2 of Made in Spain, A Taste of Granada.
Nice way to begin. That, by the way, is our breakfast drink.
It's kind of embarrassing, but
It's in line with the other podcast.
There you go.
Okay, so we left on Sunday, and it was about a 3.5 hour drive from Alicante. That's the area that we're in.
Yep.
Super easy drive. I mean, I'm saying that your husband did all the driving, but I mean, there was no traffic really. The roads are really good, just as a recommendation.
The roads are fantastic.
Fantastic.
Really. And it's, from where we're from, down the coast, it's literally a straight shot.
So, yeah, very easy to get to, and also a really beautiful drive. And parts of it, as you get closer to Granada, I said it almost as the same time that Jeff did, where I said we could be in Canada right now because there's so many pine trees. It's very, very green. It's really beautiful.
So is that what reminded you of Canada? Just the vegetation, you could say?
Oh, yeah, getting into the city at least when because I mean Granada is just with the Sierra Nevada.
Yeah.
So we did see snow on the top the first day we drove in.
Yes.
It's quite
So
special.
driving into Granada, you've got Sierra Nevada, which is actually a very famous spot for skiing and snowboarding. So that's your first recommendation right there, is for those of you who do like the winter sports. Most people do not think about winter sports when they think about Spain.
No,
but there are a lot of places here that you can go, beautiful ski locations. And actually Sierra Nevada is even nice when it's not the winter, because they've got some beautiful cabins up there, and the nature in that area
It's
is
really
nice.
pretty. I mean, you would not think that you're in Spain based on the vegetation. You feel like you're in a sort of an alpine country.
Yes. Which is
okay.
interesting because it's the south,
It's
right?
the south, yes. Okay, so we left on Sunday, and this was part of Laura's birthday present to me, so thank you for
Happy
that.
birthday.
And I think when we booked it, we did not realize that it was the Semana Santa.
So in typical Nalini and Laura fashion, I thought, we've both wanted to go see the Alhambra. It's something that has been on my list for a really long time.
Me too.
It's like, let's do this. And then I started looking into booking hotels, and, I was getting a little bit of help from my husband, Jeff. And he's like, wow, the hotel's like really full. And I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, I wouldn't think so. We were still quite a few weeks away. And then we all of a sudden realized, oh, wow, like we're booking on, Palm Sunday, which is the beginning of Easter, which here in Spain is called Semana Santa.
Right.
So, there we are. We booked the rooms, and all of a sudden we realized it's one of the most important dates for the south of Spain, particularly.
It's the Holy Week.
It's
leading
Holy
up to
Week.
Easter.
Semana Santa, if you are in other parts of the country, you're still going to see bits and pieces. But the same as we said, Fallas is in Valencia.
Yes.
The Semana Santa, the Holy Week, the place to really kind of experience it is the south. Now, Granada is known for it. However, Sevilla and Malaga are, kind of another level, you could say. People get super involved. Usually lasts a week. It's Sunday to Sunday, but it's not always on the same dates. So,
right.
It could be like March or April. This year it was April 13th to April 20th. So we arrived on April 13th,
yes.
first day,
first day,
Palm Sunday. And when we were thinking of going to Granada, we thought to ourselves, okay, since we just found out we're going in Easter, well, let's go and enjoy some of the processions.
Right.
Because they are very, very special.
Very special. And we were lucky enough that very close to our hotel, the procession started. Actually, the procession passed in front of our hotel, which we did not realize.
So instead of waiting, calmly in front of our hotel for the procession to come along, we decided to go to the first procession that starts at 4 p.m. It's the first one that kicks off Easter in Granada.
Yeah.
And it's called La Borriquilla, which means the little donkey. And
right.
it's the one where, supposedly Jesus, is coming into Jerusalem and he is on the little donkey. And this statue that they carry out of the church is over 1,200 kilos.
It's a statue, but it's really, it's
like a scene, like a nativity scene.
Yeah, literally, but covered in gold on the outside, but very big, very heavy, and very tall.
It's gorgeous. Even if, independent of your religion, I do think it's very much a worthwhile experience.
100%.
Even if you're not, Christian or Catholic, because it's the feeling that people have around the Holy Week. I heard some people that I thought was really cool. They were teenagers. They weren't even older generations that you could say normally get more involved in these things. And a few of them were saying, oh, I'm so excited. I haven't felt this way since last year. Because it's this really nice energy and the vibe of everybody getting together for this very purposeful moment.
And I would also say, from my take on it, I believe Palm Sunday is when, people welcome Jesus in. So that's,
yes.
It tends to be, it's not a party celebration,
no.
Even though afterwards everything is full and people are very festive.
Well, we are in Spain.
Yeah.
So.
However, during the actual procession, it's not somber. It's more, I would say, respectful.
So I think the further south you go, like Malaga, it would be much more, it's not supposed to be a kind of like celebration per se.
No.
I think where we were in Granada, you still get some of that respect and the silence. So for those of you who are who have not experienced the Holy Week here in Spain, if you can visualize, it's very, people are basically thinking with intention about things they may be asking for as they see the processions go by. There's supposed to be total silence. Now, again, that is very hard in this country. The amount of people, because everybody's been waiting around. We waited around for like a couple of hours, and the amount of people that were going, shh, 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 like shushing each other. And then the person that was doing the shushing is talking like a minute later.
And then
I'm like,
also,
lady.
I was trying to figure out why people were looking at their phones. Because it was for, a crowd mostly of Spanish people.
Yes.
It was relatively quiet.
I only saw a few people that were not Spanish where we were, because we went right to the beginning of the procession,
right,
which is outside the church.
But people were on their phones and they were looking at the live stream from inside the church.
Yes.
That's what they. So I thought, people, you're looking at a football match. Like, come on.
They were actually.
But no, they were watching the live stream from the church to see when the procession would actually start. So we had, from one direction, you had bands come down and play songs, music, and then the bands led the procession out.
Yeah. And that procession lasts an average of 5 to 6 hours.
Yes.
And within those 5 to 6 hours, imagine the people who are underneath this scene. There may be 40 or 45 people, but they're carrying 1,200 kilos of weight. So it's an amazing thing that people prepare for all year. And, it's a great honor. Now, there's a few more things that are happening during the procession. Like, for example, the one that we saw specifically has all these children. And apparently the children are very, very specific to that particular procession of La Borriquilla. It's not normal to have them involved in a lot of the others because it's hard going, 6 hours of walk.
I mean, and then you think... I sort of pictured it when you told me that, it's a 6-hour procession and we need to get there, etc. I thought it's just because they move really slow. I kind of pictured it where, I thought maybe they were pulling a cross because those are images that I've seen before.
Yes.
But this is very different. The reason it takes 6 hours because the people, they're men who are underneath I don't know what you would call it. It's really this big structure. It's a very big structure. They're lifting it and they're only moving so many meters at a time. And they have a little scene that they enact with the child who sort of knocks on the door. They put it down. The child recites something. Do you know what the little boy said?
The little boy was welcoming, supposedly, like Jesus into Jerusalem.
Okay.
That's what the actual... I mean, it was a lot longer than that, but that's what he's saying. The kids welcome you.
Because,
that's why that procession has all the children. Because that's what it symbolizes.
They're babies, too, by the way.
Yeah, they're babies.
They're babies
dressed up like, little like Hebrew
shepherds.
kids. Yes, that's what it was. So anyway, that was a little bit about that Easter procession, but those processions go on all week.
Every day.
Yeah, every day. And by the way, if you are going to Granada or you're going anywhere for Holy Week, I would suggest be ready to park your car and leave it wherever it is.
And walk.
The streets are cut off. And there are points where you can't even walk through the procession. Like we tried to get to a restaurant and we couldn't.
The police said no, cut down the other street.
So that's what we did on the first day. I do think we wanted to address one thing.
Actually, two things.
Okay.
There were many women dressed in black, very beautiful. Their hair pulled back, tied up in a bun, and they had this sort of, not a veil, but almost like a veil in the back, but then, really, and of all ages. So I would like to know what we got a picture with them.
Yes.
So it was really nice. We asked them for a photo. And also, people might find it a bit jarring, but some of the participants in the procession, they have these traditional outfits that in North America might look like something completely different.
So let's address both of those things. So the ladies dressed in black that really are dressed like, let's say, old school widows is what I would say, because here in Spain before, particularly, people who are Catholic, etc., they would dress like that for several years after their husband passes away.
Sometimes their whole life.
Or the whole rest of their life, depending on different things. The curious thing about the procession is that there's a lot of little girls dressed like that too.
Right.
With the mantilla and everything.
Yes.
So it is symbolical. They're called manolas.
Okay.
And I think it is just from that part of Spain.
Okay.
And it just symbolizes, it's like they are the widows of, Christ, because it's like the passion of Christ, etc.
I just got the chills when you said that.
Yeah, so it's a very, and it's a pride, like, for them, even the little girls, to be kind of walking behind in the procession.
Right.
And you could see everybody was like really, really, beautifully made up and
really nice.
So that's on the manolas.
Okay.
Now, let's address the nazarenos, because this is an interesting one. So I read some articles preparing for the episode today where this was on Euronews, where one of the gentlemen, the cofradías, which is what they're called, like these brotherhoods or whatever you want to call them, that, actually put the procession on for their church, that it's very hurtful that, they hear comments year in, year out of like, oh, why those people dress like the Ku Klux Klan or the KKK. And I just want to clarify something. The capirotes, the hats, those kind of very, again, people relate them because they kind of think of the KKK imagery or etc. Those have been around here in Spain specifically, tied to not a very great time, which was the Inquisition.
Right.
So initially, the church had this great idea, which was, we're going to put these things on people's head, and if you wore a red one, it meant that you were going to get executed, or if you wore this, or if you wore that. It meant different things, but they were initially kind of made to ridicule the person that was wearing it,
Right.
you know, when they would walk on the street with it, but also in some way to cover who
Their
that
face.
person was.
Yeah.
Now, that developed through the years into eventually it was, instead of being a sign of something that you would be ashamed of, it went to being something that you would wear as a sign of penitence. Is that
Right.
how you say it?
Yep.
And
So you're very pious. Yeah.
Yes, and
yeah.
it's basically like you are repenting for something in humility. You're wearing this thing that, you know, is kind of a sign of penitence, and you're wearing it in a way to kind of not draw attention to yourself.
Right.
Even though it's kind of hard not to draw attention to yourself when you have a massive cone on your head. Let's just kind of put it
Well, and
that
also
way.
the color that they wear there is blue.
It means something.
It's blue.
There's different colors.
Right.
Blue's one of them. It depends on which cofradia
Right.
they belong to, but it has absolutely zero to do with anything to do with the KKK. Actually, I read that several historians mention that they believe that the KKK just thought that the traditional Easter updo from Spain looked intimidating,
Right.
and that it also helped to keep the clan's anonymity, and that's why they started
They
wearing
adopted it.
But it is so hurtful for people.
Of course it is, because it's based on their tradition and
Yeah.
hundreds of years, and it has literally nothing to do with what that organization represents.
And a
it's,
totally different intention. I mean,
and it's very religious. I mean, you
Yeah.
are following Christ as
Yeah.
he makes his way into Jerusalem. That is, you're right. What you're saying, they're just very pious. They're penitent. They're somber. But the whole experience of it was really beautiful. It's
Yes.
a really, I mean, you do not have to be Christian to
No.
appreciate it. It
No,
is a
absolutely.
really fantastic time to go to Granada, even though it is very busy, but also it's not as hot, which is good.
It is good. And I wrote a couple of things down that I wanted to share with the audience that I thought were interesting in doing this research. The capirote is older than the establishment of the country of the U.S.
Okay,
Because it's
so there
from
you
like
go.
the 1500s.
There you go.
And the only other thing I wanted to mention is that, again, it was just picked up because it was intimidating. That's all. So, you know, that's where it comes from. Okay, so we've talked about Easter.
Yes.
In chronological order.
Right. So
We're going to talk about something very, very, very special.
So the reason we booked to go to Granada was originally to see the Alhambra. We, again, did not know it was Semana Santa. We did not know it was Palm Sunday. That happened to be a coincidence. And we also left the tickets to the absolute last minute possible.
Don't do it, people.
Yeah,
Like,
do not do it.
do it.
Learn from our experience. We thought we would just be able to, you know, go online and like click book 2 tickets because the whole world is waiting for us, which
To show
by the
up to
way,
the Alhambra.
yeah, it's
not
not.
happening.
We're learning that as we're doing this podcast to plan a little bit better. So we ended up paying probably 4 times the price per ticket.
almost 5 to 6 times.
Yeah, but we had no choice. The purpose was
We're
to
going
see
there.
it, so we had to buy these tickets for a tour, which, by the way, was great. It was a small tour. And I think that's what Granada is known for, outside of maybe skiing, is number 1, the Alhambra.
Yes. What a special place. So let's start off, Nalini.
Okay.
What does the Alhambra actually mean?
Okay, so in Arabic, I believe it means red wall. And that is because of the sand, you know, sort of sand colored on the outside, but inside it's actually different colors. I mean, you have a lot of white and
yeah.
a little bit of blue. Let's just do a little tiny bit of history. And again, Laura and I, we are not historians.
But we do
so
enjoy history.
We do enjoy
and
it.
we do enjoy doing the research.
So this is just a little bit research. So in 711, the North African Berbers, they converted to Islam. They crossed the Strait of Gibraltar to invade Spain. And most of Spain, by the mid 700s, they were ruled by Moors. And at that time, Spain was known
700s.
as mid 700s.
Mid-700s.
Yeah. So Spain was known as Al-Andalus.
Al-Andalus.
Yes. So Spain was ruled by the Moors for 800 years. Now, it has been longer in time that it has been an Islamic country than it has been a Spanish country.
Which is crazy
It's pretty
if you think
interesting.
about it, because, you know, I always kind of laugh when people don't realize, like, you know, all the names of all the towns.
Yes.
You know, most of the names of the towns, the way that people look You know, there's so much influence here from the Arabic countries. There's a tremendous amount of influence.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting history. Not always,
Not always friendly.
not always a friendly history either. But over the centuries, through the Reconquista by the Christians, so the Christians started to move south and reclaim the land. The last two strongholds, Sevilla and Granada. Sevilla fell in the 1200s, and Granada was the last stronghold of Moorish rule. The Alhambra.
Very significant. So
Very
not just
significant.
Granada, but what's inside the walls.
Right. So in 1492, that's when Ferdinand and Isabella, it went back to them. So the Alhambra officially, that date, I think it was the 1st or 2nd of January in 1492, which also is when Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Wow.
It's a significant year.
I was going to say, like, that year, just something is ringing
Right?
there.
That's why. So the Alhambra started off as a...
So, sorry, Nelly, before you go there, though, what was the last drop? Why did they end up?
the guide that we had, she was a fantastic guide and very knowledgeable. She said that the Sultan would pay taxes to Ferdinand and Isabella, and then at one point just decided he's not going to pay taxes
No more
anymore.
taxes.
And they said, well, guess what? Bye. We're taking it from you.
So the
That's
absolute last hold of
Yes.
the Moorish kingdom left, basically, came down because of taxes.
Yeah, and it was from everything that I've read, it was a peaceful sort of transfer.
Yeah.
It was not a bloodbath. However, the Alhambra has suffered from bloody wars post 1492.
Yes.
So they set up this city on ancient ruins and thought that it would be a perfect place for not just a fortress, but a military lookout, a citadel, because of the height. So the Alcazaba was the first part that they built, which is the military quarters. And we saw that was towards the end of our tour because we had to leave early.
So imagine this. We were in this tour for over 2 hours, and I think we may have seen 25% of the Alhambra.
You can
or
spend the
more.
whole day there. You can spend the whole day there.
Yeah, and actually that's something that I would probably recommend. If you are someone that likes architecture, likes history, and you're making the time to go there, it may be worth really, planning for a solid 6 hours or to go back 2 days because it is so much to see.
I think you can buy tickets where you can see the Nasrid palaces at night.
Oh, that would be beautiful.
So you can see the rest of the Alhambra in the day and then come back the next evening and see the palaces at night because they're really quite spectacular. I mean, we were cutting it. We left it about 7-ish and that they were closing at 8.
Yes.
So we saw as much as we could on our tour. And the military side that we saw, the Alcazaba, so that looks out over the city. You can see everything. You can see the whole of Granada. You can see the Sierra Nevada. We didn't see snow because it was a bit cloudy. But what we noticed is that the soldiers' homes, only the base was left. And why was that?
So what we realized from what the tour guide shared with us, and I had no idea about this, but Napoleon and his troops, when Spain and France were at war, decided to attack the Alhambra, which if you think about it, it's horrible, right? Something that's been built for over 1,000 years almost, and they destroyed a very large part of it. Thank goodness they didn't destroy the Nasrid Palaces side, etc., because that would have just been a historical disaster, And
I mean, it is still, it will never be finished in terms of restoration. It is an ongoing upkeep this is a huge place. Now, people...
So they started building it in what century?
The 12th century it started, and from the Alcazaba to the Nasrid palaces, and every sultan who had, a family, sons, they would add on to the palace.
Concubines, eunuchs. Air conditioning with fountains in their own bedroom.
Yes. So the Alhambra, what we learned, the first thing that we learned, which we didn't understand, is that it was a city unto itself. So
not a palace, but an actual city.
Functioning city. So you had a Medina, you had cemeteries, you had, vendors, you had the military base, you had the court. And you also had an appeal court.
Yes.
And they showed us how the appeals would work. So you would first go to the court, and if you didn't like your outcome and you wanted to appeal it, you would move on to the next side, where you would sit in this room, and then the Sultan would see you to hear your grievance.
Yes.
And also Muslims and Christians resided within, but there were certain areas that the Christians had to stay and the Muslims stayed. They did coexist within the walls.
At times better and at times worse.
Right.
Depending on what was going on historically. It was either a more pleasant coexistence or less. But it is very interesting. Just, culturally, it's like you throw so many different things in there, and you get the Alhambra. Like they didn't. Let's say when there was one takeover versus another, they didn't destroy and start again. For the most part, apart from this whole thing with Napoleon, etc., they kept building. So there's a lot of layers to it.
And we learned from our guide that over 200 years, there were 23 rulers.
Yes.
So 200 years, 23 rulers, because they fought each other. They would murder each other to take control.
They would murder each other's kids, even though they were family, just so that they could take control of the Alhambra.
Yeah, it's a very storied history, I would say.
Yeah.
And let's see, what else do we need to cover? So four major places to see is the Nasrid palaces, the Charles V Palace. So that was under the Christians. You have the Alcazaba, and then you have the
Generalife. That's a hard one.
That is very, and the thing is, when I first read that word and to spell it out, in English, it's very difficult to
Generalife. I can't even imagine how you would say that.
I tried practicing it before and listening to a few things, but in my mind, my English mind, it is very difficult. It's actually a very difficult word for me. But that gardens, they built that to represent paradise on earth. And those gardens have existed for the last 600 years. So
I think one thing that I would have never realized before the guide shared it, there are a lot of obviously Arabic words written on the walls. One of the sentences that appears hundreds of times is, Allah will be victor, or Allah will be victorious, and it's written everywhere. But also there are more sentences all over the Nasrid Palace, and she said this is like looking at a book that's being built into a building, because there are so many poems and things written on the walls. And when I say written, carved. It's
she tried to explain how they did the actual mold, so that they would use tree bark, and carve the mold, and then put water and plaster, and then that would come out, and then that's what they would use to. That's why you see all the repetitive patterns. I read something mosaics. The mosaics that they say the walls of the Nasrid palaces speak.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, and they do.
Actually, it just gives me a little bit of like chicken skin or whatever you want to call it, because it's like, it was, to me, the Nasrid Palace by far. I mean, the emotion looking around, especially there was one particular place where we were looking up at the ceiling, and they said the ceiling was made up of over 8,000 individual pieces of wood that had been constructed to do this 8-point star, which was representing of the heaven of Allah and so on. It was so beautiful. Like, I really can't wait to go back.
No, we were discussing this in the car here. I said, would you go back? And in a heartbeat, because we could do it in a little bit more of a relaxed way, take our time, really take it all in. And, okay, I have a question for you. What does the legend of Sleepy Hollow, do you know this story?
I think I do.
The Headless Horseman?
Yes, the Headless Horseman.
Yeah. So what does that story have to do with the Alhambra?
Well, I know the Legend of Sleepy Hollow a little bit, but I have no clue what it would have to do with the Alhambra, because Sleepy Hollow was like in a little town in the U.S. somewhere, right?
Right. So it was written by Washington Irving.
No way!
Yeah, so
I didn't realize Sleepy Hollow was written by him.
Yeah, it's one of his short stories. So The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And he also wrote Tales of the Alhambra, because he came in the early 1800s, fell in love with this romantic vision of Granada and taking the trip to Granada. He spent time in the Alhambra, but by the early 1800s, it was basically a derelict place where
they told us it was full of homeless people,
graffiti, just, it started to become basically squatters.
Yeah.
I mean, it was still in a way, I think, a functioning little village in which people would set up their
ocupas, as they call it here, Yeah.
So, and he was horrified.
Yeah.
So in the early 1800s, he used his voice through literature to raise awareness, and it became such a point of interest for other people in Europe because
and
they
other
were
writers as well,
and
right?
other
the
writers
romantics
to be inspired by this. That by the mid 1800s, the government here had to do something about it and started to restore it into what it is now. So by, I think, the mid 80s, 1984, it was designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. I mean, I think that's quite late in the game, but still, at least it has that designation.
I can't believe it took someone from the US to come over and understand the beauty of Granada. He was actually named in the end the son of the Alhambra.
Yeah, we saw it on the way out. There's a statue.
Title.
Yeah.
So I did want to read one thing, Nalini,
Okay,
that
go ahead.
I read this sentence from Ernest Hemingway.
Okay.
That I thought was interesting, in relation to Granada and the Alhambra. And he said, if we had to visit one city alone in Spain, that would have to be Granada.
Oh, nice.
So when I read that, and you think of the connection as well with Washington and what he did it's just amazing that sometimes people from outside a place and outside a country will actually appreciate the beauty and the place more than the people who actually live there.
Yeah, it honestly became sort of a worldwide embarrassment for the government here that you have this monument, you have this ancient city that needed to be restored. And thank goodness, because I mean, I don't know how much money it brings into the city of Granada, but it has to be astronomical because it's full. You can't buy a ticket unless you book 4 months out.
Yeah, a tremendous amount. I think it's like several million visitors a year.
At least.
And the one thing I will say, though, is, the best way to try and enjoy something like this as well is when you go, be respectful, listen to the guides, don't touch things. Because, they're doing such an incredible job at preservation. Yeah. And we did see, some people that, they are not being very intentional or aware, with what they're doing. So I think it's good.
They tell you very specifically, don't touch the walls, do not lean on the walls.
And then you see people leaning on the walls. Awesome.
Yeah.
So hopefully you enjoyed a little bit of background on the Alhambra and on Easter. There are a lot of... Yeah, well, we're definitely going back. There's so much, and we're not even going to get into today the Albaicín, the Sacromonte, which are the different areas. Yeah. We really don't have time to cover all of it on the episode today, but we will certainly be going back to Granada and actually uncovering a few more secrets there. So on to our Slice of Life. Slice of Life.
Okay, so we are talking about, in this episode, our little trip to Granada and also our little stops that we made. We have some tea on the table here. What does it say? This is for insomnia and nerves.
This is a very calming tea, and we're just going to open it.
We found really interesting the first day that we were there, and we went from the hotel straight into... basically around the corner to a very popular spot.
It smells good, right?
Yeah, that does smell nice. Where they have restaurants and, for lunch. And of course, we head out at the peak hour of lunch after the procession. They had a lot of tea places, which we didn't realize.
Loose tea. And a lot of interesting kind of like why this tea or what this tea, find romance or, fall asleep
a little bit
better.
mystical.
Like very mystical. It had a bit of a kind of a magic shop vibe as well as a tea vibe.
But, it wasn't just one shop. There were many tea shops. And I believe that's the Arabic influence.
Yes. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
There's many tea shops, many shisha shops.
Yes.
For those who like to smoke the shisha, they were all over the city. And also it was very interesting, like Turkish, Lebanese, all
Indian.
kinds of different food. have to say that, food wise, I think quality related to price, Granada is fantastic. We did try a few different places, everything from Spanish tapas to Italian to, I wish we would have had a little bit more time to be able to go visit some of the tea shops, etc., like the ones that you actually sit at and have the sweets.
Yeah.
But fantastic place for food for sure.
Okay, so our first afternoon we ate in, I would say it's just a little restaurant that was in a square, but we were in an area that was very Spanish, so we tried to avoid the tourist traps, the very touristy areas, and I mean, there were all Spanish families eating there. That was really delicious. What I think you should explain, Laura, in Granada is very particular. When you order a drink, they bring you a tapa.
So this is very specific to Granada, and sorry to, bust your bubble if you're going anywhere else, because it ain't happening anywhere else other than Granada and some places in the south. Here, if you order a beer or if you order a drink somewhere in the Valencian community or the Costa Blanca, you will get some olives, maybe some almonds if you're lucky, but nothing else. In Granada, when you order a beer or you order a drink, it always comes with a tapa. And these tapas can be significant in terms of the food.
They're big.
Yes. So we had some that it was like a stew, like a small plate. It's a little
but
portion.
They put bread on top of it.
They did. And then another time we had like prawns. And so you're paying like €2. You get like one kind of drink and then you get food along with it. So by the way, if you do this a few times, you don't have to go and get lunch at a restaurant because you are fed.
Yeah, you don't. And the portions at the restaurants are very big.
Yes, they are. So I think we
shared everything.
We did, and we were making comparisons. I mean, we went to like a super nice Italian restaurant,
right?
And it was called, started with a P. Oh, it's gonna come back to me.
I'm gonna say the wrong name.
Go for it. Try.
It's
not Palermo.
Parole?
Parole.
Is that
Thank you.
Is that the name of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Shout out to Parole. For me, best Italian food I've ever had in my whole life. And it was in Granada.
Good.
And I have been to Italy a number of times, but that Parole was so good.
Delicious.
So that's
actually.
Parole.
Yes.
And
you have to make a reservation. Do not turn up like we normally do and ask for a table for 4 at the peak hour of lunch because they didn't have one. But we did get a reservation
heavily
later.
recommend having the mushroom carpaccio. So for our slice of life, let's try what we have on here.
What is this?
So we have torrijas and mona de Pascua.
Okay.
Torrijas, you can have... Oops. Okay, so careful, Nalini, because it's wet. Yes. So torrijas are very, very commonly eaten in Easter.
Okay.
This is from all over Spain. And then we have the mona de Pascua. Okay. So describe what that tastes like to you and what do you think it has in it? Because I haven't talked to you about this.
Okay. And I don't mean this in a bad way. I mean in a good way because I don't like French toast, but it tastes like a really soggy French toast, which I prefer because it's sweet and it has a lot of cinnamon in it.
Yes. So this is a torrija and
it's really good. Look at this.
it is good, right?
Precision, Laura.
So
Getting it into my
good.
mouth.
So torrija is bread dipped in milk and there's a few different ingredients that can vary, but definitely cinnamon, some orange or lemon, a little bit of citrus in there, and then you have, of course, sugar, which you can taste. It is good, right?
I highly recommend.
Highly recommend. And then you actually dip it in egg and you fry it.
So it is like
fried bread.
I think that you can say that's Spanish version of French toast. Only better.
It's
Don't
good.
say that.
So if you want to look up recipes, torrija, Torrija, it is so good. And it's something that is very commonly eaten at Easter because people, when they're trying to do Lent and not eat meat,
right?
This is a great substitute. It's very cheap, obviously, because it's just that it really is. It's just a slice of bread with some milk and some sugar, cinnamon, etc. So that's torrija.
Okay, and this one in the middle is this is cute. This is very Easter-like.
We're gonna have to break this with our hands. So this is a mona.
Okay.
De Pascua.
Thank you.
So it's called an Easter mona. This is more from the Valencian community, and since we had a bit of an Easter theme going, and I'm gonna give you a little
chocolate
piece of this chocolate. Actually, the word mona comes from muna in Arabic, which means to provide for your mouth. And
It's
so
like
there's a lot of Arabic influence in this little sweet as well.
I would say this bun is just a sweet bun. Would be nice with a coffee
It usually
or
is
tea.
dip in something, like dip in like a hot chocolate or dip in something.
Very nice.
Traditionally, it used to come with a boiled egg in the middle. It still does in many places. It's like a
Right.
hard-boiled egg, decorated hard-boiled egg, and it would be given as a present to, like, let's say your ahijado, what do you call it? Godson or goddaughter.
Yeah.
And you would give it to them as a present. But as the years kind of went on, they started taking the boiled eggs away and putting like chocolate eggs in it.
No, it's nice. It's very fluffy. It has sugar on the top.
Yes.
And it's sweet. It reminds me almost like a brioche.
Yes. So this is
Similar.
like Easter sweets.
Yeah.
There is probably hundreds more, but I thought you would enjoy the torrija.
Those, it's very nice.
Yeah, and it's it is like French toast. It is very easy to make, and they are so tasty.
Let's talk about our favorite place that we went to in Granada.
And by the way,
outside of
sorry, I almost
Alhambra.
forgot. I got these from our cafe, Valentina's Coffee in La Nucia.
Okay. Shout out to Laura's Cafe. Do you want to hear the funniest part about this? Is that Laura and I will do something. We'll go for a walk. We'll go to a class. We'll work out. And then we'll try for a coffee after. And she'll say, where do you want to go? Sometimes wherever we want to go is full. And then I have to remind her that she has a cafe. And I'll say,
I don't want to take up space. Usually it's very busy, and I feel guilty about it.
and I'll say,
taking up space.
but don't you have a cafe? We'll just go
Yeah.
to your cafe.
Yeah.
So anyway, Valentina's in La Nucia.
Yes.
Who made this, by the way?
The girls.
Oh,
that
really
work.
nice. It's delicious. Okay, now on to our favorite little spot in Granada, which we did not plan. Again, we just, after we did the Albaicin and we were really kind of, how do you say, like hankering for a little treat for ourselves.
Bar Castañedas.
Yeah.
So you will have heard probably, hopefully, as our audience, the cocktail episode where we talked a little bit about vermouth. And I was very keen to show Nalini a vermuteria or somewhere, or a bodega, where they kind of serve vermouth as a pre-lunch drink. So we went to Bodega Castañedas in Granada, which is a really cool little place. Very busy.
No,
Not good if you're getting sensory overloaded.
Listen, busy is an understatement. It is ram-packed, wall-to-wall people. It is, and we went on a Monday. I mean, it was Easter week, Holy Week, but still, it was a Monday at, I would say, 2 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Just at 2 o'clock, ram-packed, wall-to-wall people. But they don't take reservations. There's no such thing as a reservation there. You get in, you gotta push your way to the front, which we did quite easily, and you order. And then she asked me, you were in a beer mood this past weekend, Laura. Not me. I don't drink beer. She was,
"Give me a beer."
She wanted a beer. I had a vermouth, which I never have, but I could not hold myself back. It was so good. It was really good. And then they bring out our tapa. I don't eat beef or pork, but the portions they gave are quite large. And then they have bread on top. So that alone, if you had just a vermouth and that little snack,
That was like a little
plenty.
lunch.
It's plenty. I mean, if you had to
So
go on to another place,
The vermouth was €2.40.
it's ridiculous.
It is.
It's ridiculous.
So definitely recommend that experience of going to the bodegas, going to the taverns, getting that kind of the tapas. And then the other thing that we wanted to discuss in our slice of life was our very interesting experience
hotel.
at the hotel we stayed at. Which is the Marriott, the Autograph Collection in Granada, which is in a palace that
Great
was a convent.
location, though. It is if you can afford it and you can stay there. There are a lot of. Oh, and we also have to talk about the hostel quickly. But it's an ideal location because it's on the main road, and you can walk. Everything from there is, I would say, a 10-15 minute walk.
So we'll give you two options. One, if you want a little bit higher budget. One, if you want a
Right.
much lower budget, but still a super cool place.
Yeah.
Like, I would really, really consider the lower budget place actually after going for breakfast there. So let's start with the Marriott, though, because it was pretty interesting. It was an old convent.
It's a converted convent into a hotel.
It was not that long ago that it was converted, as we found out by a reason that we will share in a moment. There's a lot of interesting imagery in the hotel, particularly in the cocktail bar. There's like a, inverted cross. There's like a lot of weird things going on there. But the interesting thing is that, I would say not for the faint-hearted. I mean, if you are someone that gets easily kind of creeped out, which maybe I am, maybe not the best place to kind of try and get a solid sleep. And maybe Nalini, you can share why.
Oh, well, she thinks it's haunted. And then Laura said at 2 a.m. she heard voices. And I
may have watched too many terror movies at this point.
Thankfully, I slept through all of that. But it is a place where you do have a bit of a vibe. And in the center courtyard, which is quite pretty, it's very beautiful.
Very beautiful. Let me just say this. The hotel's very beautiful. The location's great. I just found it a bit odd.
In the courtyard, they have, it's a cemetery.
It's a cemetery. So you're basically sitting around the courtyard, and all of a sudden we start looking at the
stones,
floor.
But they're in the ground.
And you see these stones on the ground, and it says Sor blah, 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 which means like, the senior nun such and such,
right,
or senior nun such and such. And I looked at Nalini and went, you think those are just their like commemoration, or do you actually, because again, we're sitting a meter away, from these quote unquote tombs. Yeah. So the waiter comes over and I'm like, are the nuns buried there?
She said yes.
And she said, yes, they are. I'm like, okay, well, like, why isn't it like
roped
off or something? Because, there's people walking over, which I felt was very kind of like, okay, this is freaking me out.
And they had some of the inscriptions on they were from like the 50s.
Yes. So
somewhere,
1600s,
yeah,
all the way to the 50s,
like 1950s.
Exactly. So 1950s was like the last kind of non-public that was buried there.
Yeah.
So again, I'm just like, okay, this is fine. I don't have any kind of.
We walked. Yeah, we walked. We did.
We were careful. We didn't want to step on it. But my comment to Nalini is that I don't think the hotel makes a big deal out of this because they don't want people to know. Or they don't want people to realize that this is a cemetery. Like, we're literally sleeping around a cemetery.
And inside, the rooms, because it is a converted convent.
The rooms are the rooms where the nuns slept. You can tell because of the height of the ceiling and everything.
Yeah. Listen, during Halloween, it might be a very different
perfect
vibe.
Place.
Yeah.
Perfect place. If you want to go experience Halloween in Granada, stay at this place.
And she's convinced she heard sounds at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I slept through it, so I'm okay with
Nalini slept through it, but yes, I definitely not like the best 2 nights of sleep I've had ever in my life. Although I would go back, because that's just me. I would go back,
hotel's cool.
It is
a cool vibe.
But just, something, I don't think I have ever stayed in a hotel that had a cemetery in the middle of the courtyard, which, by the way, is the terrace of the bar.
Yeah, it is the terrace of the bar. And then, the picture with the upside down.
Oh,
but then Ayrton said, he's like, no, it's not anything bad. It's St. Peter.
Yes. So Nalini's son was giving us history lessons, which is great. That's why I sent him to the Bible school. Like, teach us. Okay, so that was a little bit of our slice of life.
Our eco travel.
Oh, yes.
It's called what is it called? It's Eco Hostel Granada.
Okay, Eco Hostel Granada. So if you're looking for something on a bit of a kind of, let's say, lower budget, but still a really great experience, we just happened to stroll into this hostel that looked like a really nice cafeteria from the outside.
We thought it was. We saw on the outside. We were very hungry, and we saw the
avocado
outside.
Toast.
Yeah, avocado toast. We're like, let's go there. We walked in, and then you said, "I think this is a hostel.
Yes.
Like, we're in the cafeteria of a hostel, but you can eat there. It doesn't matter." But very, very clean. Like, when you say hostel, that's really a loose. I would say
co-working space.
It's very cool.
Breakfast with like avocado toast, coffee and orange juice for €5. It's really, really good. And we both had the breakfast there. It was delicious. Lots of activities to do with other people, like yoga, go visit the Sierra Nevada and everything from the hostel. So definitely a very, I think, recommended place.
And it's honestly like 4 minutes from where our hotel was on the main street. You just, hang a left basically and you're there.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, that was Granada. It was a whirlwind tour, Laura, but
Yes,
I loved
it was.
it.
And we only came back a couple of days ago.
It was fantastic. I would recommend to anyone to do it.
Yes, definitely going back. So, thank you very much for joining us in this slice of life. We have our sentence of the day to do.
I'm ready.
I don't know if you're ready for this.
I'm never ready. Just tell me.
This is bad. Okay, so we're probably gonna have to beep this just to kind of make sure that I'm just gonna put it out there. Okay, so the sentence is el coño de la Bernarda.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I don't know what that means.
Okay,
Yes, that part I know.
that part
Yeah.
of Bernarda, whoever Bernarda is.
Oh,
What does that mean, Nalini?
wow, that's hard. That was a bad thing to say.
Should do you want me to try and break it down for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So, for some reason, in Spain, you say that when things are very disorganized, they're all over the place. El coño de la Bernarda.
That's like us getting here this morning.
It's like,
I could have
what?
applied that
El
to
coño de la
us
Bernarda.
getting here this morning.
So, how do you end up with that? Like something being disorganized, quoting a particular woman's.
Yeah.
So the reason I brought that sentence up is a lot of people say it originated in Granada.
Oh, funny.
And apparently, Bernarda was a santera, or someone that did like black magic and all kinds of stuff. And she was related to one of the Arabic kings.
Oh, okay.
But she was also kind of dabbing in the kind of both Christianity and so there was a lot of mix going on there. And there are some very funny stories that I'm not going to get into about this lady Bernarda and why, they use that for when things are super disorganized. But I just thought,
that definitely applied to both of our situations this morning.
Yeah. So that was that. The sentence apparently originates from Granada, and one of the multiple legends around that sentence. But that's what a lot of Spanish people will say when things are like totally
Good.
disorganized.
Okay, I'll listen out for it.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us for this very special episode about A Taste of Granada. And we will be coming back in season 3, probably going north. In season 3, since we've done quite a bit south and the southeast coast. And please remember to subscribe, follow, so you don't miss an episode. We would love to hear from you. Let us know what cities you want us to cover as well.
Absolutely.
So we can consider them for season 3.
Yeah, thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Okay, bye
Hasta
for now.
luego.
The Made in Spain podcast is an Everything's Rosy production, with executive producers and host Nalini Sharma and Laura Senior, with special thanks to production assistant Ayrton Nath.